This is ACMi News, recognized nationwide as the first place winner of the 2022 Hometown Media Award for News Access.
Common sense to save money on gas in Arlington can go far, starting with don't drive. We check prices at the pumps in town. There are holistic alternatives to ridding the town of rats. Several measures are currently underway to push rodenticides to the back of the toolbox, all in an effort to save creatures at the top of the food chain. And we revisit Jason Russell's house, which is open to tourists this summer. And this is a story that has a lot more holes than first thought. Sorry. ACMi News starts right now.
From McLennan Park to Spy Pond, from Poets Corner to the Mystic River, we have Arlington covered, giving you stories that count from people who care. Reliable, trustworthy, dependable. This is the 2022 nationwide award-winning ACMi News. We don't need to tell you that checking your area gas prices is like peeking at the stock market. Things are anything but normal. Hello, I'm Paul Werlin.
And I'm Summer Maxwell. Thanks for joining us. Fortunately, gas prices have been declining in recent days, offering motorists a little relief. But experts say take advantage of the lower prices now. They may not last much longer.
Although gas prices are still high, they're dropping, which is uncommon around the 4th of July holiday week. It's due to several factors, including fears of a decline in the global economy, which caused oil prices to fall, according to industry analysts. And as the world goes, so goes Arlington. As of the July 4th weekend, the BP gas station at 295 Mass Ave has regular unleaded for $4.89, $4.85 at the Arlington Global Service Station just down the street. And at Antoine's Auto Repair and Gas in the Heights, it's $4.89.
I think that they should get lower to help people out, but I don't think that the oil companies should be earning a lot of money right now.
I think it's ridiculous. It's hardly noticeable. I think the oil companies are lining their pockets. This whole thing has nothing to do with the war in Russia or anything else.
I mean, Morgan and I at Dunkin' Donuts, we're not making much, so these gas prices just keep going up, and then it's just insane, I'm pumping nearly $20 in gas every day, and I don't drive much, thank you. So, I don't know, it's just getting ridiculous.
Does it hurt every single time you have to pull into a gas station?
I mean, yeah, I don't want to go out of my way every day. I'm on my way home, I have to stop by a gas station every single day. So, it sucks that we have to live in this world. All my tips every day, Dunkin' Donuts. All my tips from Dunkin' Donuts every day just go straight to my pump.
According to AAA Northeast, gas prices in Massachusetts continued to drop this week, falling to $4.85 a gallon on July the 5th. That's down 20 cents from the record high of $5.05 set back on June the 12th. The average price for a gallon of regular unleaded 1 week ago was $4.92. 1 year ago at this time, gas prices averaged $3 a gallon in the Bay State. Over the holiday weekend, President Joe Biden focused on gas station owners, tweeting that companies running gas stations should simply bring down the price you're charging at the pumps. But the gas station owners we talked to say they've already done that. They did that weeks ago, and they are barely eking out a living as it is. And like everybody else, they are feeling the crippling effects of this economy as well.
The biggest blame is the giant companies. It's not us as hard-working people every day. We try to make here pennies. We don't make more than pennies in a gallon. And we try to survive, nothing else.
Due to several world events beyond our control, oil prices are starting to rise again already. So, industry experts say they expect gas prices to be on the rise in the very near future. So if you can, fill up now or pay later.
To find out more about gas prices in Massachusetts this summer, just go to the Northeast AAA website, northeast.aaa.com. Again, that's northeast.aaa.com.
The Select Board has agreed to send a letter to Mass Housing regarding the residences at Millbrook, a proposed 50-unit multifamily development and commercial space at 1021 to 1025 Mass Ave. The proposed project by the firm Maggior of Woburn would combine two parcels between the Highland Fire Station and Quad Cycles and build up to 5 stories with parking and retail space. More details, including building design and traffic, will be discussed with Mass Housing if the project gets the approval of a comprehensive permit application. According to Your Arlington, the developer applied for a site approval application with Mass Housing. The next step would be for that group to give the green light if it's determined the project meets requirements. If it goes that far, the developer then submits a comprehensive permit application to the Zoning Board of Appeals. Town leaders anticipate it'll take until late summer or early fall to determine whether the project goes to the next step.
The Arlington Police and Fire Departments have just announced the Academy graduation of new police officers and firefighters. 6 new police recruits graduated from Cambridge Northeastern Police Academy on Saturday, June 25th. Town Clerk Julie Brazil swore them in on Tuesday, June 28th. Chief Julianne Flaherty says these grads underwent a comprehensive training process at the Academy, which includes skills-based training and community-centered experiences. Meantime, Arlington Fire Chief Kevin Kelly announced that 8 Arlington firefighters graduated from the Massachusetts Firefighting Academy, where they completed the 50-day firefighting training program. These recruits underwent rigorous training, arming them with the basic skills they need to perform their jobs effectively. Want to know more about all these recruits? Just go to the town website, arlingtonma.gov. Congratulations to the new graduating class at the Academy.
Arlington's Redevelopment Board has approved a plan with conditions from Deep Cuts Deli of Medford to open for business at 464 Mass Avenue. That's the former location of the Tango restaurant. Applicant Jeff Wetzel expects to have roughly 15 employees. Conditions for Wetzel's application includes approval from the Historical Commission to paint the outside, locating outside bike racks, and adding 1 long-term bicycle parking space inside. The permit with conditions was approved 4-0. The applicant is also looking at the possibility of building a microbrewery in the basement section of this vacant business.
The power that Arlington's supplying is electrifying. Our town is launching a campaign called Electrify Arlington, powering buildings and transportation with clean electricity. The campaign will kick off this summer with the launch of the Electrify Arlington website, a one-stop shop for residents and business owners, to find information about rebates and incentives as well as technical assistance. This is all in an effort to encourage using clean energy technologies. The town is partnering with several organizations that will work directly with residents and businesses to help meet individual energy efficiency goals. Arlington's 2021 Net Zero Action Plan commits the town to achieving net zero greenhouse gas emissions by 2050. To find out more, just go to the town website, arlingtonma.gov. You may recall members of a family of owls died suddenly at Menotomy Rocks Park earlier this year. And even though the owls were never sent for testing, residents are concerned they died ingesting rodent poisoning.
As a result, there's currently a push on the local and state levels to control rodenticides in order to save Arlington's wildlife and protect the town's environment. Here's ACMi News Director Jeff Barnes.
On any given day, Arlington residents have the chance to celebrate nature in their own backyard, on the ground, and in the air. But recently there's been an unnerving disruption in the cycle of life in town. At the entrance to Menotomy Rocks Park, you'll find a kiosk warning parkgoers to the dangers of rat poison, namely second-generation anticoagulant rodenticides, or SGARs. These warnings are posted for good reason. Poisons like SGARs are believed to have caused a great horned owl mother and her 2 owlets living in these trees in the park to die a slow, painful death earlier this year, bleeding out of the eyes, nose, and mouth. And this isn't the first time. State wildlife officials say in the summer of 2021, an eaglet learning to fly here died after ingesting similar poison. Some concerned residents say unless there are changes in the way Arlington curbs its rat population, it's not a matter of if, but when more similar cases arise.
Raptors, coyotes, foxes, any pets, cats or dogs that eat a dead or dying rodent can also be affected by this poison.
So SGARs are second-generation anticoagulant rodenticides. are essentially a mouse or rat poison. They're frequently used by pest control operators, and they'll often end up in those black boxes you can see on almost every street corner downtown. And so what happens is a mouse or a rat comes along, and the bait inside is usually flavored or scented, so they'll eat it. And what happens is their blood stops clotting efficiently. And so it ends up being a slower demise, meaning it doesn't kill them instantly. It sickens them. And so all of a sudden you have a sick or slow-moving rodent moving around. And that, unfortunately, becomes a very easy meal for something like a hawk or an owl or an eagle or maybe even something like a fox. And when the animal comes along and eats that sick rodent, the poison, the same mechanism that works on the rodents, will end up working on the predator animal. And so what happens often, or what we think we're seeing in rehab, is birds of prey, are the most common ones we see. But they'll come along, they'll eat one of these sick rodents, their blood is not clotting effectively. So all of a sudden the predator starts to get sick, and then the next mouse or the next meal they can afford to catch is probably going to be another sick, slow-moving one. And so you end up with a bit of a cycle where you get a predator that gets one dose, and then maybe it doesn't feel well, doesn't feel up to catching a normal healthy mouse, and the next one is sick, and the cycle repeats until the animal is pretty sick itself. I'll tell you, our hospitals, the one in Weymouth and the one in Barnesville, Massachusetts, we treat probably 100 to 200 cases a year. I don't think either of the ones from Arlington came into our care, but we're a pretty tight-knit community here in Massachusetts, so we do hear about those things. And certainly over the years, a lot from the Cambridge area. I know we're treating an animal, barred owl, from the Mount Auburn Cemetery right now that had a pretty severe case of rat poisoning. And so it's important to remember, people don't often associate these kind of birds, and especially birds of prey, living in urban environments, but anywhere you have a thriving rodent population, you're probably going to have all these other layers of wildlife too. And so it's important to remember, Arlington, Cambridge, all of Boston proper has its thriving ecosystem going on right under our noses.
Currently, there's a so-called SGARS bill making its way through the State House, requiring pesticide companies to disclose to customers the effects of rat poison on our environment. Customers would also need to provide a signature acknowledging the dangers to having SGARS on their property. It would require non-poisonous alternative methods in all state buildings in the Bay State. And finally, the measure would also require an online database where companies would report just how much poison was used and where it was used. 2 warrant articles to save the lives of animals at the top of the food chain were introduced by residents Elaine Crowder and Carrie Thiel at this year's town meeting. Now, both of those articles passed. One called for the elimination of SGARS on all private and public property in the town of Arlington, except when it's deemed absolutely necessary by the Board of Health. Currently, the power of pesticide regulation lies with the State Department of Agricultural Resources. The state does have the muscle to strike down portions or even all of that bylaw. Which brings us to article number 2. That article pushes for the adoption of a pest management policy and would target, among other things, the use of SGARS on town-owned properties. It also encourages more public outreach, awareness, and communication.
What we're trying to do is join some statewide efforts to get some local control and send to the state legislature a special legislation request, which basically says that we, Arlington, would have the authority to ban second-generation anticoagulant rodenticides within Arlington.
I'd like to tell the residents of Arlington that you guys have an incredible amount of biodiversity right in your own town, and it's worth protecting. And when it comes to rodent control, you have a lot of options. We're lucky to live in a time where there are so many options available. And so before you undertake the process of trying to control rodents chemically, take a few minutes, read some of the recent articles that come out, because your choices matter. And not only to the rodents and not only to your own public safety, but to the safety of our entire environment. And I have to tell you, there is no better natural rodent control than a hawk or an owl. These guys are out there every single day trying to make meals out of mice and rats and exerting their own form of control. So we want to protect them in the process because they will work with us to help keep these rodents in check.
For ACMi News, I'm Jeff Barn.
So, what can you do to get rid of rat problems safely? Here are just a few tips from Zach Mertz from the New England Wildlife Center.
There's anything from blocking up entryways into businesses. Rodent proofing goes a really long way, meaning if you're taking away the entry points and exit points, that's sort of one of the first steps to controlling rodent population in any given structure. Things like snap traps obviously are not perfect, but at least they're only taking out one animal at a time, and it's not sort of cascading up the food chain. There are other non-bioaccumulating chemicals out there, and there are certainly things like deterrents too. And so when people call us at the Wildlife Center and they ask for strategies, we often sit and we work with them. We'll listen a little bit on what their house looks like, but we often suggest an integrated approach, meaning you want to block up the entryways, block up the exit ways, maybe use some deterrents. There are some scent deterrents that might work. Use snap traps. And if that's really not working, or it's still posing a significant public health issue, then there are some other chemicals you can move on to. And then the SGARs are sort of way in the back of the toolbox, reserved for the most dire of circumstances.
If you wish to learn more about SGARs and how to control the rat population in your area, just go to the New England Wildlife Center website, newildlife.org. That's newildlife.org.
We are always proud of our interns who work very hard here at ACMi. This summer we have more than a dozen interns who are here to learn the ropes, behind and in front of the camera. For instance, here's an intern who shot a lot of the video for the reports you've seen in this newscast. Meet Tufts University senior Theo Watton.
Hi, my name is Theo Watton, and I'm a senior at Tufts University, graduating this summer with degrees in International Relations and Music. I'm from the best state in America, New Jersey. My favorite TV show right now is Seinfeld. I wanted to intern for ACMi because I wanted a hands-on program that explores all the steps in producing cable content while engaging in a local community. In the future, I want to work in audio production, and I'm excited to explore that more here at ACMi. Now, I have a game for us called Two Truths and a Lie. Number 1, I wrote the music in the background of this video. Number 2, I'm ambidextrous. And number 3, I accidentally killed my Venus flytrap plant by feeding it steak. You have 5 seconds to guess the answer. And the lie is that I'm ambidextrous. My favorite part of production is editing. I think it's a rewarding process, and I can't wait to get better at it here at ACMi. Thanks for watching.
You'll be meeting more ACMi interns throughout the summer.
The Jason Russell House, the site of brutal fighting on April 1775, is open for guided tours during the summer until October 30th. Visitors are also able to see a new exhibit, Monotony, Road to Revolution, to learn the stories of Monotony residents who mobilized to defend their homes and village from retreating British troops.
And we learned back in January there's so much to see, including some recent discoveries in the Russell House. Musket holes that have been hidden in the house for well over 2 centuries. Here's a look back at the story ACMi News aired in the winter months of 2022.
April 19, 1775. The Revolutionary War begins after the shot heard round the world at the Old North Bridge. Facing more firepower from the provincial militia than anticipated, British soldiers, redcoats, leave Concord and begin their slow retreat back to the relative safety of Boston via Cambridge. The fatigued main column of redcoats would pass near the Jason Russell House in what was then known as the village of Monotony, modern-day Arlington. Russell himself, a fairly prosperous 58-year-old farmer, was returning home after secreting his family to safety at a nearby farm.
We have the story of his neighbor coming over and telling him that you should take refuge with the women and children who were going up the hill to today's Belmont. What was happening was that news that was spread by Paul Revere and William Dawes was starting to spread to the more outlying areas, places like Danvers and Salem and along the South Shore. And so all of these people were showing up to fight wherever the fight was happening. And it was getting more and more intense the further toward Cambridge they were going.
It was about 5 p.m. on the 19th of April when the British were passing by these very grounds. Now, waiting for the redcoats on this property, behind thick brush, hastily constructed breastworks, stone walls, and trees, were members of the American militia and the Minutemen, who had poured in earlier that day from surrounding communities like Danvers, Beverly, and Salem. The men focused their attention on the approaching main column of British troops marching along the old Concord Road, now Massachusetts Avenue. When the redcoats were close enough, the rebels then opened fire. Suddenly, the exhausted British soldiers became enraged. Musket fire and heavy smoke swiftly enveloped these grounds, erupting into boundless carnage. 7 men from Danvers were killed in the front yard. 2 were seriously wounded. 1 was taken prisoner. In a frenzied search for cover, some militiamen managed to scurry inside the Jason Russell house.
They just showed up here and they sought refuge in the house. They did some fighting. They were probably shooting from outside windows and trying to hide as they could.
In the midst of outright chaos, Jason Russell himself tried seeking refuge in his home, but he would never make it. He had a lame leg, moved too slow, and was shot twice as he reached the front door. He was then bayoneted 11 times by resolute British infantrymen, following the rebel soldiers who managed to make it inside the house. For the ensuing minutes, this home became a slaughterhouse. The intense barrage of musket fire, billowing smoke and screams overwhelmed this home. Outside, British infantrymen continually peppered the Russell house with musket fire. The musket balls penetrating walls, windows, and ceilings. In this kitchen, a redcoat tried opening the cellar door and was immediately shot to death by one of the Danvers Minutemen hiding in the floor below. British regulars would then storm the parlor on the first floor, the bloody staircase, the 2 chambers on the second floor, and finally, the attic.
And there's some record of the most intense fighting happening in the upper rooms, which is an interesting fact.
Although the Minutemen put up a furious fight, there was no exit. They were quickly overcome with point-blank British firepower and summarily bayoneted. When the brutal firefight finally subsided and the smoke cleared, the British then ransacked the Russell house and quickly left for Boston. Historians say a total of 12 Americans and 2 redcoats were killed inside the home.
It was such chaos that we know how many people died in the house, but however many flooded in, we have no concept. And we've seen different kinds of, a lot of what we go by is oral history, just because nobody thought to write at the time. But we have somebody who went and interviewed a lot of the children and grandchildren of the participants, and that's one of the best sources that we have for what happened that day.
Jason's wife, Elizabeth, returned to the house to find her husband dead. Jason Russell and other fallen Americans, their bodies riddled with musket balls, torn apart by British bayonets, were laid out like cordwood on the kitchen floor, blood from their fatal wounds forming a grotesque pool in the room. Elizabeth was reported to have said, "The blood in the room was almost ankle deep." Today, a 19-foot white marble obelisk serves as the final resting place for Jason Russell and others who gave their lives to breathe new life into what would become a new nation. Nearly 250 years later, new and exciting clues continue to emerge throughout the home, attesting to the brutality of that awful day. Just 2 years ago, a team of archaeologists and historians conducted a ballistic study in the Jason Russell house. Within minutes, they were finding several musket ball holes that have been overlooked for well over 2 centuries. Within 10 minutes of their arrival, they discovered a musket hole on the dark side of the door jamb leading to the Russell cellar. More holes were found in the first floor parlor, the staircase, and the attic. The trajectory of many strikes points to the exterior Mass Ave wall, just below the first floor parlor window, likely fired by British regulars outside, targeting provincials pouring gunfire from the inside.
And then we're finding the new information that comes from this study that is taking part. I think very few, I don't know if they found additional bullet holes at any of the other sites, but this one, we're already well known for the bullet holes, and then to have found additional ones is pretty remarkable.
As word of the Jason Russell House continues to gain in popularity and status among history buffs, centuries later, it is still revealing its guarded secrets and attesting to the tenacity of those people who lived and ultimately died here. For ACMi News, I'm Jeff Barn.
This is a historic gem right in the middle of Arlington. The Jason Russell House is open Saturdays and Sundays from 1 to 4 p.m. For more information, visit arlingtonhistorical.org/visit or call 781-648-4300.
Now that we're deep into the summer season, have you been to the farmers market yet? If you haven't, you're missing out. The farmers market is open from 2 to 6:30 p.m. at the Russell Municipal Lot at 29 Mystic Street through the month of October. There you'll find all kinds of vegetables, jams, jellies, relishes, flowers, bread, croissants, fruits and cheese, and there's even TV. Yes, ACMi is there this summer. Stop by and say hello and learn how you can take part in your TV station right here in Arlington, either in front of the camera or behind the camera, producing, directing, writing, public affairs, news and sports. ACMi has it all. We hope to see you at the farmers market sometime soon.
That'll do it for this week's edition of ACMi News. Thanks for joining us. I'm Summer Maxwell.
And I'm Paul Werlin. Have a great day, everyone. See you next week.
You can always check out our latest segments and newscasts on the web at acmi.tv/news. And don't forget to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter and Instagram at ACMi News. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. You'll find us at youtube.com/ACMi News. If you have any news tips for us or wish to become a citizen journalist, we'd love to hear from you. Email us at news@acmi.tv or stop by ACMI Studio A at 85 Park Avenue.